My name is Khalid. I'm a councilman here in Atlanta's new twin city, South Fulton, Georgia. Since our city began 4 years ago, I've been pushing to install more crosswalks and speed bumps like these in neighborhoods across our city. But there was never any money in our budget for them. Then, in 2018, lawmakers used the tragic death of a South Fulton student to install speed cameras to ticket those speeding in our school zones. In just a few months, those speed cameras generated nearly $4 million in fines. But instead of using that money to create more safe crossings, our city council voted to buy a police tank. So I created the Pedestrian Safety Fund to take $1 million of those fines to install crosswalks and speed bumps in every neighborhood that asks for them. I am running to be the next mayor of South Fulton to find solutions to our problems that don't punish our residents with excessive fines and fees, and to ensure the revenues we do raise are spent on the things you care about the most. It's why I've been endorsed by the Working Families Party of Georgia, and I hope to receive your vote this fall. Early voting begins Tuesday, October 12th. Please visit khalidcares.com to learn more about me and how we can make South Fulton work for working families. South Fulton, forever.
All right, good evening, everyone. Give me just a minute here, having some technical difficulties with my Zoom. All right, multimedia in the age of Zoom. My name is Khalid. I am a councilman and candidate for mayor in the city of South Fulton, which is not Atlanta. Many of you may have heard the mayor's debate is going to be on television tonight. We gave them a few minutes to get started. But for those of us in cities outside of Atlanta, Union City, East Point, College Park, Fairburn, we all have elections as well. And here in the city of South Fulton, we have a mayor's race. Our election is the same time as Atlanta's election. November 2nd is election day, and early voting will start the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is, of course, a holiday. In most places, it is Columbus Day. Here in the city of South Fulton, we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day since 2018. And so it is a city holiday and a state holiday, so many offices will be closed, but voting will begin Tuesday. So I want to thank everyone who is watching online tonight, and see we've got a few folks and a couple of hundred other folks are watching the replays. So what I'm going to do now is put a number in the chat. I'm going to do a little introduction. Some of you who've been in the previous meetings, let me just do this. Text your questions to this number. So if you look in the chat here, you can text your questions to 424-652-8523. Please include your name when you text the questions. I'm going to go through a couple of slides here. Hopefully it will be informative, and you'll hear something that you had not heard before. If you have a question, you can text it to that number. I'll either read it, or if you'd like, one of our techs behind the scenes will bring you onto the Zoom. We'll send you a link. We'll bring you onto the Zoom so you can ask your question live. We're going to let you ask your questions live tonight. We're trying some new and exciting things, trying to use this technology to make these meetings as interactive as possible. That is something that I really believe in. I am pushing for us to be more communicative with our city, to publish a quarterly paper newsletter, but I'm going to continue pushing the boundaries of technology and using it as much as possible, whether it is Zoom and online meetings like this, YouTube. I have an Instagram page, TikTok, what else? Facebook. I've even got a Snapchat. I don't use it that much. But here, if you see this QR code just above me here to the right, you can scan that with your phone. If you are watching this on your computer, you can scan that with your phone. You can pull up all of my social media and my website, and you can contact me those ways as well. But go ahead and text your questions to that number, and Mr. Yofi Dowdell of the Idea Farm Academy is going to be scanning those questions, getting them to me. He'll be looking at the YouTube as well. And I'll be looking at that as well to answer some of the questions. But I'm going to go ahead and start with a little political education about the city of South Fulton. And bear with me if you've seen some of these slides before. If you haven't, I've added some new ones in. Always trying to up the presentation and education game. So here we go. The city of South Fulton is Atlanta's new twin city. You can see Atlanta up there. You can see that we are actually the same size as Atlanta. We have this really crazy, chart, this really crazy set of boundaries. And that is because in 2006, when we had the chance to become a city, and all the other cities in Fulton County voted yes, Chattahoochee Hills down there to the left, along with Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, and Milton became cities. We said no. And a lot of the land through the middle of our city was annexed. You see the two between districts 3 and 4, and then between districts 5, 6, and 7. You see these chunks that were cut out by both College Park and Union City. They took that South Fulton Parkway and around Buffington Road. That's where we had a lot of industrial and commercial space. Union City took that and built dozens of warehouses. The warehouses that you see in the city of South Fulton that you think are in the city of South Fulton are actually in Union City and College Park. And there are members of council who believe particularly some of the Union City land was illegally annexed. And we have been pushing for a resolution to that. One of the reasons that I'm running for mayor is that the mayor and the mayor alone controls the council agenda and facilitates the council meetings. So he decides what we talk about, and he decides how that conversation flows in our meetings. And though many of us have wanted to talk about this issue and get that land back and stop these warehouses, we have been stopped many times by our mayor. So that is one of the reasons that I'm running. You can find all of this information at khalidcares.com. I have multiple pages on that site with different information, so you'll see some of those links below the slides. khalidcares.com/101. The South Fulton 101 page is where you can find this map. So the city of South Fulton, with a 91.8% or 92% African American population, is the blackest big city in America. Of all cities over 100,000 people, we are the blackest. You will see this list from Wikipedia. We aren't in there. We aren't in there yet because the census data has just come out. We just have our own American Community Survey data. And there are people who do not want to promote this, right? Who do not want to promote this fact. And so they have been working, including the mayor, have been working to suppress this fact. But as mayor, one of the things that I will be doing is making sure that we are listed in places like Wikipedia, because this is a strength. Some people, unfortunately, see our blackness as a weakness, but it is actually an economic development strategy. For many, many years, places like Atlanta and DC were known as the best places for black people to live, to start a family, the best places to start a business. They would be at the top of these Ebony and Jet lists and black enterprise lists. Interestingly enough, if you look at this chart, you will see that neither Atlanta or DC are in the top 10 anymore. Atlanta is actually no longer a majority black city as of the 2020 census. It has dropped just below 50%. So we are now in the perfect position to take that mantle and to say to African American entrepreneurs, to innovators, there are people who are trying to do things in tech, right? If you look up all of these stories about people doing things in tech in Silicon Valley, African American entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs have been struggling to get venture capital or basically access to capital to start their companies up in places like Silicon Valley. We can be a Silicon Valley. We can say to those people, come here. And we can also say not only to black-owned businesses, but to people who do business in the black community. Places like Nike or Sprite, right? There is no reason that their regional headquarters for the South or for the Southeast are not in the city of South Fulton. We are one exit from the world's busiest airport. And we have this 92% African American population that comprises the entire African diaspora, right? Afro-Caribbean people, African folks, African Americans from every corner of the country. So we could be saying to these companies, there is no better place to test your products and test the marketing of your products here in the city of South Fulton. And then once you have created a successful product, because we are one exit from the world's busiest airport, not only can you test these products, but we can help you quickly get them to market. And so that is one of the reasons that I talk about it, and one of the reasons that I want to see us do that. So rushing through a couple more of these slides, you can see here Atlanta versus South Fulton. The ethnic data as of 2019. There's new data coming out in 2020. Another reason that I talk about this issue is because many of the challenges that we have in South Fulton are the same challenges that people have in South LA and the South Side of Chicago and the South Bronx and South DC. Wherever we have these majority black communities, they're all struggling. We are all struggling with undervalued homes, underperforming schools, and undercapitalized entrepreneurs. That is not an accident. It is not a coincidence. it is actually because of policies that were written by city, county, state, and federal governments. Many of you have heard of redlining. There's a great book, The Color of Law, here by Richard Rothstein. He talks about how the first red line maps were not created by banks. They were actually created by the Federal Housing Authority, the same FHA that underwrites many home loans today. For decades, in the 40s and 50s, redlined African American neighborhoods. If you go here to, there's another book called Giving Voice to Lindentown that talks specifically about how that happened here in Georgia. Lindentown is part of Athens, and so they document the Athens community. If you go to khalidcares.com/Black History, you can see this great map from the University of Virginia. They have been looking at red line maps, so you can go here and see the original FHA red line maps for all of these metropolitan areas, including Atlanta. And you can see where places like the West End and Capitol View and the South Side were deemed declining or hazardous as they became more and more majority Black communities, which is the same thing that happened here on Old National as Old National, which was obviously named after the Confederacy, Old National. We have still too many Confederate streets here: Stonewall Tell, Tara Boulevard. The list goes on and on. But as our communities began to turn over and white people left those communities, banks and corporations withdrew their investment as well. And even today, that continues to happen, though it is illegal in law. It has been going on so long, it has now become a part of the algorithms that banks use to decide who is credit worthy and what percentage we should be charging people for their mortgage, right? What percentage of interest we're charging for their mortgage. There have been all of these studies about how racism persists in lending, not only for residential homeowners, but also for corporations and businesses because of these redlining maps. And so if these things are the result of government policies, when I talk about us being Black on purpose, what I am saying is that we have to be intentional in our policy making to do everything we can to dismantle these obstacles. We can see that even today, because of all of these things, the average Black household only has 1/10 of the wealth of the average white household. The average white household has 8 to 10 times more wealth than the average Black household. And that is because the majority of wealth for the majority of Americans is found in their homes. So if our homes are being undervalued, then we cannot generate as much wealth or equity. We cannot pass that on to our children. And that is something that we struggle with. And so I'm running for mayor to change this dynamic, to be Black on purpose and to build better, invest more, and improve our image. I want to slow down the development. We do not, as you know, developers are chomping at the bit to build any cheap homes or Family Dollars or warehouses that they can build. We have the most land. We have the most undeveloped land in the metro area, all the metro area counties. We have the most undeveloped land, and we have the cheapest land. And so that is actually our prize. That is actually our gold mine. And we need to be careful in how we develop it and raise standards for developers. We need to invest more in our local entrepreneurs and create career paths for our children. And I believe that we need to rename, rebrand, and remarket our city. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I want to talk about some of the good news. We have one of the highest owner occupancy rates of any city in the country. We're at 67%, right? So much higher than the city of Atlanta. One of the reasons is because our homes are more affordable, right? If you look, our homes, our home in Atlanta is nearly twice what it is in the city of South Fulton. I want to show you another interesting statistic, though, and that is this one. If you look at the bottom here, the percentage of people with a bachelor's degree or higher is much higher in the city, in other places than in the city of South Fulton. So we have this high rate of home ownership, but a lower rate of education. So that tells me that we have a lot of working class families, a lot of blue collar families, and a lot of people who, though they did not go to college, are making great money. I'm here to tell you, I went to college and to law school. I didn't finish law school. I did a year of law school, and I have $60,000 in law school debt. And I am now making $15 an hour as a city councilman. I chose it. I love it. And I'm in a loan forgiveness program for public service. But I have friends, they didn't go to college at all. They went to trade school, and they are working as plumbers and electricians and carpenters, and they're making $80,000 or $100,000 a year, and whatever little loans they had have long since been paid off. And so there is value in developing and encouraging people into trades. We really need to get back to that. That is something that I want to see us use our park system as. A lot of people are asking, what can we do about our schools, or what can I do about our schools as mayor or as a city council? There's not much we can do because Fulton County schools are governed by the Fulton County school system. But we can create an after-school system with our parks program. We can bring back shop class and carpentry. We can connect people to trade unions. These are things that I've actually done as a councilman, connecting people to apprenticeship programs with IATSE or with construction ready, which puts kids and adults through a program making $15 to $20 an hour, and when they come out, they are certified and guaranteed a job. So a lot of people remember programs like that in their high school or their county in the 70s and 80s and before, and we got away from that. But we as a city can get back to that and keep our home ownership rates high, and hopefully some of our college debt rates low. More good news about the city of South Fulton. We are a young city. So you see our median age is 34.9. That is younger than both Atlanta and the national average, right? And so we have a young city. We have lots of young people, but I will tell you the fastest growing demographic is not young people in our city. The fastest growing demographic is people over 55. And so that tells me that young people are leaving the city of South Fulton because we don't have the kinds of places that attract young people to live. If you drive through Atlanta, you will see cranes going up everywhere. You'll see all of these high-rise buildings. Lots of young people are interested in living in apartments and luxury condos. We don't necessarily want the 3-acre lot. We don't have time to cut the grass. You know, we're working, we're driving Uber, we're teaching our kids in Zoom school, we're doing all of these things, right? And we just want to live differently. People will tell you that, oh, you can't have economic development if we're worried about crime. But if you go down to Atlantic Station, where there has been lots of crime recently, you will see that Microsoft is building their headquarters there. NCR has moved their headquarters downtown. There's a new campus for Microsoft coming on the west side in Westside Park. If you have not been out to Westside Park where Bankhead Homes used to be, you need to go visit because it is an entirely different place. And there are townhomes that are now selling for $300,000 and $400,000 and $600,000 in the Bankhead area. Young tech workers and entrepreneurs want a live, work, play community. They want a more cosmopolitan and urban community. We don't have to do that all across South Fulton, but we do have places like Fulton Industrial Boulevard and Old National that would be perfect to develop those sorts of live, work, play, exciting entertainment places where we can actually keep some of the young people that we are losing to Atlanta and other metro areas. One of the things that I've talked about doing is creating this Grown in South Fulton label. So 17% of the land in South Fulton is zoned agricultural. We have 9 working farms in South Fulton. We have a Black-owned winery, Miller City Farms and Winery, in the city of South Fulton. we can create a grown in South Fulton label, just like they have a Florida grown. If you go and buy oranges, or if you go to the grocery store, if you look closely, you'll see these oranges. They have these like Florida natural or Florida grown stickers. We can create a sticker like that. With just a few $1,000s, we can subsidize our farmers to grow enough food to supply 2 to 3 grocery stores here in the city of South Fulton. I love to talk about the city of Baldwin, Florida. First, I'm going to show you Kendall Ray Johnson. We just gave her a proclamation. She is the youngest certified farmer in the state of Georgia at 6 years old. She has a registered farm ID with the state of Georgia and the federal government. So we want to replicate that across the city. As I was saying earlier, I'm going to go back in Baldwin, Florida. They have created their own grocery store. It's a small city outside of Tallahassee. When the city lost its last grocery store, they created a grocery store and they staffed it with all the workers there work for the city. They get great wages, living wages, and benefits, just like city employees. And then the food, much of the produce comes from farms in the Baldwin, Tallahassee area, and even in South Georgia, right? So they're helping out local farmers. They're helping out employment in the city, and they're also solving this problem of food deserts. And we can do the same thing here in the city of South Fulton. When I talk about building better, this is an example of one of the developments that I brought to the city of South Fulton in 2018. I couldn't get it to pass, but it was a $50 million development, 300 apartments, the first new apartments on Old National in nearly 40 years. The failure of this to pass is really one of the impetuses for me to run for city council. The first 80 units were going to be senior housing. And we even discussed building a bridge over to a pedestrian bridge from the developments right into the Walmart and LA Fitness shopping centers. And the financing for it, I won't get too far into the weeds, but the financing was called a 9% tax credit bond financing deal. And in order to do that, we were going to create a downtown development authority. I want to disabuse people of misinformation they may have heard. I was not trying to make Old National the downtown of South Fulton. As you've seen in previous maps, our city is 100 square miles. So a city of that size, a city the size of Atlanta, has multiple downtowns. There's a downtown Atlanta, there's Midtown, there's West Midtown, there is East Atlanta, there is Buckhead, right? So we can have multiple neighborhoods. But that Downtown Development Authority is a legislative tool created by the General Assembly to revitalize blighted or rundown Main Street areas in the state of Georgia. And so Old National was a perfect candidate and is still a perfect candidate. And as mayor, one of the things that I will be doing is bringing back and revising that Downtown Development Authority to not only secure this deal because these developers are still interested, but also just revitalizing the Old National area. So how do we get all of these programs done? I've talked about all of these wonderful things that I want to do. Well, one of the things that we have to do is change the way that we are spending our money. Right now, we are spending 30% of our tax dollars. 30 cents out of every tax dollar goes to our police, and less than 1% goes to economic development. A lot of people hear me say that, and they think that I want to defund the police. We don't have to defund the police. We don't have to flat fund. We don't have to fire any police officers. But what I do want to do is flatline that funding. I want to stop giving money just to the police and make sure that we're giving money to some of these other departments, like our public works department, our IT department, and especially our economic development department. The police have actually never been defunded anywhere in Georgia, and not really anywhere in America. Their budgets have been getting larger and larger, but we have been defunding our schools. We've been defunding our parks. We've been defunding our family and children's services. We've been defunding our job training programs. We've been defunding our trade schools, right? And so we have to refund those areas. So my plan as mayor is that as new revenues come in, as we realize rising property values, not because we're raising taxes, but because we are just delivering better services. And then as we build some of these apartments and commercial properties that I'm talking about, these grocery stores and all of these things that generate wealth in our community, that we take that money and reinvest it into economic development. And so that is my plan. This to me is the money slide, right? Literally, people are always saying they want these three things. So if you look at the outside circle, these are three things that people say they want. They want stable services, they want low density, they don't want all these things built in their neighborhood, and they want low taxes. Well, you can't have all three of the things at the same time. As you see, the intersection of stable services, low density, and low taxes does not exist. You can have maybe two of those things, and then you have the problem that you see sort of here in the outside of this Venn diagram. If you have stable services and low taxes, you got to have more density. That's what you're seeing happening in Atlanta. They're increasing the density. I want to do that in some places in South Fulton, not everywhere in South Fulton. In those commercial nodes that I've talked about, we want to increase that density. You can have low density and low taxes, and then you're going to get cuts in services. That's what we've seen here in the city of South Fulton, right? So that's why we're making everybody get sanitation service, because we don't have the money to set up a sanitation department, right? We still haven't finished our sidewalks. We still haven't done the economic development that we need. We've had all of these. We don't have the ability to provide the level of service. I tell people all the time, we can, if you want a police officer on your block, we can put a police officer in every driveway if you want to pay for it, right? But people don't want, so people want stable services and low density, then you end up with high taxes. So I put Peachtree City here as an example. The home values in Peachtree City, the same home in Peachtree City will cost you 2 or 3 more times than it does on Old National or in other places in South Fulton. They have not a lot of density, but they pay a lot of taxes because their homes are very expensive. And that's how they have all of the amenities, the beautiful streets, and all the things that you see in Peachtree City. So I think the way for us to go is to have more density in some places, and that's how we're going to get more stable services and without raising residential property taxes. So 85% of our land here in the city of South Fulton is zoned residential. Only 15% of it is zoned commercial. So we've got to maximize it. When I talk about the density, I'm talking about in these commercial areas. We've got to maximize that. We've got to maximize that density. Many of you know that we had this speed camera program. In just about 9 months, we raised nearly $4 million. You probably saw this in the opening ad of this town hall. So the first thing that we did, we went out and bought a tank. The city of South Fulton doesn't have a street sweeper to clean the streets, but we do have a tank. These are the kinds of ways that we have to rethink about how we are spending our money. So I created a pedestrian safety fund so that we could provide crosswalks, sidewalks, and speed bumps. We're now going to take $1 million of that money to install speed bumps in every neighborhood that asks for them. This is an example of speed bumps that are in place at Connell Drive in front of S.L. Lewis Elementary. And so that is one of the programs that I did that I'm very proud of as a councilman. The other program that I'm really proud of as a councilman is this blighted property program. We have knocked down a house in every district of the city. We know that there's still dozens of houses on the list, nearly 50 houses that are on that list. If you think that you have a house that needs to be on that list, please email me at khalid@khalidcares.com. I'm going to show you how you can sign up for my newsletter. There'll be a newsletter coming out tomorrow. You can just reply to that newsletter and say, I want to make sure this house is on the list, and we'll make sure that it gets on the list. The first blighted property fund was $150,000. We have now doubled that to $300,000 a year. And as mayor, I will continue to increase that blighted property fund until we can knock down all of the blighted properties in our city that we need to get rid of, and make sure that we are making that land available to residents. So the last thing I talked about is we've talked about building better. We've talked about investing more. Now I want to talk about improving our image. So there are a lot of things that myself and other progressive members of council, like Councilman Mark Baker, have done to try and put South Fulton in a positive light. As you know, tomorrow in many other places is Columbus Day. Here in the city of South Fulton, it is Indigenous Peoples Day. We've made Juneteenth a holiday before it became a national holiday. There's a movement to make Election Day a national holiday, but we did that 2 years ago. And so this is legislation that I and other council members have passed. We've raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So we're trying to do all of these things to put South Fulton on the map as a progressive city. The next thing to do is to change our name and to rebrand ourselves. You know, any story that you hear about South Fulton, anytime there's a crime committed anywhere in South Fulton County, whether it's Union City, College Park, Fairburn, East Point, Palmetto, wherever, the news is going to say South Fulton. So obviously this name does not work for us in helping us to improve our image. But I also think in line with us being the blackest city in America, we can do a better job of marketing that through our imagery. So that's the old city seal that you saw. Here is the new city seal that was proposed by Councilman Baker and I. It was actually vetoed by the mayor. As you can see, it looks virtually identical to this seal. We actually don't know where it came from. One of the mayor's friends made it for our inauguration in 2017, just so we could have something to put on the program. And then without any vote of council, it became our official city seal. So we came up with a slightly altered city seal that just has a couple of pieces of African imagery that people can find if they look hard enough. Councilman Baker and I, imagined in the same way that young men look at dollar bills and find all the hidden Masonic images. You know, you hear conversations about that in barbershops and places around America. We tried to hide some of that African symbology in this seal, so you can find it if you look for it. But very prominently, we wanted a motto. Lots of cities have Latin mottos, right? No one in the city of South Fulton speaks Latin. We chose this motto, Kushijakalia, which is a Swahili word that means self-determination. We became a city so that we could be self-determining and determine our own destiny. Some people say, oh, is that going to offend people? Is it going to be too black? Are we going to scare people away? I don't know any business. I don't know any corporation anywhere in America that said we were going to come and relocate to this city, but we saw their city seal and we got worried. Here's the city seal of Duluth. This has not been their city seal since 1876. They actually redesigned their seal in the 2000s and added this cotton in. Duluth used to be a trading post, so obviously cotton in the South was a big thing, and it was key to the development of Duluth as a city. At the time, Duluth had an all-white council. No one checked in with the African-American community to see if this offended us, right? And it's fine because it's part of their history. Our history as African-Americans is our history, and we should be proud to display it. This month is Pride Month, right? So in a couple of weeks, there will be a gay pride parade. The LGBT community will be on full display Atlanta will shut down Peachtree Street for an entire day. And the parade is miles long. There are nearly 20 sections in the parade from A, B, C, goes all the way down the alphabet. If you've never been, I encourage you to go. It's actually a great time. You don't have to be a member of the LGBT community to go. It's a fun time. All the political candidates come out, candidates for governor. The mayor is there. Mayors of multiple cities are there. And those sections, they are sold just like sections at a club. The A section, the B section. Corporations pay thousands of dollars to be in the A, B, and C sections at the front of the parade. If you go to that parade, you will see every Fortune 500 company in Georgia represented. Delta, Coca-Cola, the Home Depot, every company that you can think of, Walmart, will have a float in that parade. The parade ends at 10th and Piedmont. There is a permanent rainbow-colored crosswalk at 10th and Piedmont, which is a traditional LGBT neighborhood. It's changing now, but in honor of the history of that neighborhood and what it meant to the LGBT community, they have this rainbow-colored crosswalk. My question is, why can we not be proud of our history in that same way, of our history and our culture? This is a picture of Suwanee City Hall. I think it looks like the Super Friends building. They also have a great history with the railroads, and so it actually is supposed to pay homage. It's supposed to look like a railroad terminal or a railroad depot. We can pay homage to our history here in the city of South Fulton. This is actually a pyramid in Memphis. It's the Memphis Pyramid. It was a sports complex. It's where the Grizzlies played for several years, and now it is just home to Bass Pro Shops. They have a superstore there. This is my image. This is my vision for us for our city hall. It can be a destination. It can be a beacon for people throughout the diaspora. We can become the next Black Wall Street. That is my goal here in the city of South Fulton. I think that there is no better way to honor. So this year is the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, of the burning and bombing of Tulsa. It was actually bombed from the air. When we became free in 1865, when we won our freedom, the first thing that African Americans did was build schools and buy land and open our own businesses. A lot of people know the story of Tulsa. A lot of people, they've seen it on Watchmen, or I can't think of the other really great, Lovecraft Country. A lot of people know the story of Rosewood. They've seen that movie. Some people know about places like Wilmington, Delaware. There were over 60 towns that existed by 1900 that were built by African Americans, and all of them were destroyed. And not only were they destroyed, but people tried to destroy our memory of those places, because it is powerful when people can control their own destiny, when we can own our land, when we can stop begging people to build things for us and we become builders, we become developers. I want us to return to that greatness. That is why I am running for mayor. I hope that I have your vote. I'm asking you not just to vote for me, but to vote for this idea, to vote for yourselves, that we can be the change that we want to see here in the city of South Fulton, and we don't need anyone else but us. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I know that was a little bit long, so there should be a lot of really great questions now. I see the first question is coming from Rana. She's asking, what are the top 3 issues that I will be working on when I am elected? And the top 3 issues are, again, building better, investing more, and improving our image. And I'll say specifically, we are going to re-examine our development authorities and our downtown development authority to make sure that they make sense and that we are buying and building things that make money. Our current mayor and council have lots of plans to build public safety centers and police training centers and all of these things that sound good, but actually do not generate any money. There's no government-owned building that generates any money because government properties do not pay taxes. I want us to be developing hotels and restaurants and things like that that will bring money into the city and also create new revenue streams. I am going to create that training program for South Fulton youth through our Parks program that teaches them how to grow, that teaches them how to make money, which is what so many young people are interested in, and will really help them see the value in school, right? When they can see that these that the same algebraic equations that they're learning in school are the basis for algorithms that are used by companies like Facebook and Google, and that the science and biology that they're learning can be applied to growing food and controlling a supply chain of fresh food from the ground through the trucking and shipping to our own stores and restaurants. And then I'm going to work on changing our name. I have some great ideas about a new city name that I cannot wait to share as mayor. We are going to change our name and rebrand our image. We're going to not be famous for police raids of nightclubs. We're going to be famous for creating new African American owned companies and tech companies and tech startups. That's what I want us to be known for. Do we have any other questions coming in? I'm going to check the chat here. And we may, and again, I'm going to post this number in the chat again. You can text your question, and if you would like to appear online, I got some more questions coming in. If you would like to appear online, we can go ahead and get you in here. All right, so the next question is, how will you handle police accountability? Will you be willing to have rogue cops prosecuted for violating citizens' rights? Absolutely. There was a case, there is still an ongoing case of Marcus Coleman, who I feel was abused by a police officer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a legal professional. I think that watching the tape was disturbing, and seeing the reports was also very disturbing. I think the way that many patrons in nightclubs have been treated in restaurants here in South Fulton has also been very unfriendly. Public safety is a concern to me, but making sure that businesses can stay open is also a concern. At the 50-yard line, it is my understanding. Again, I've asked for a full reporting of this raid that has happened. I have not gotten that report yet. But nearly everyone in the club was detained, although 90% of the people that were detained were released. So to me, that just seems like a harassment of customers. It is going to make it very difficult for that establishment, which has been open for years on Old National. Someone called it the Black Cheers. It's going to make it difficult to stay open, and a lot of clubs and restaurants on Old National have already struggled for the past 2 years through this pandemic. I think that, again, when we became a free people, some of the first businesses that we opened up were clubs, restaurants, and juke joints. Those were things that we knew how to do, and that we had skills in. It was a low barrier to entry. It provided a service to the community as a gathering place. And again, it's important for that economic development. We see lots of young people moving into places like Atlanta where they can live in a high rise or live in an apartment or a condo on Edgewood, and then walk over to Fin and Feathers or Joystick or any of these restaurants and bars that are on Edgewood in the Edgewood Retail District or the West Midtown District, if you've been to the Interlock, right? And so I'm meandering a bit, but I will say I think it is important that we hold our police officers accountable, and that we also celebrate the good things that they do. Unfortunately, the raids and the negative things that you've seen with South Fulton police in the media make it hard to believe this fact, which is that we have had for the past 2 years double-digit decreases in crime in the city of South Fulton. But if you see people raiding clubs and riding through the street with tanks, if you watch the news that only reports about the negative things that happen in the city of South Fulton, you would think that our crime is out of control. Though Atlanta has a crime problem, here in the city of South Fulton, our crime has actually been declining, which is the perfect opening for us to reinvest some of those police resources in economic development. Can we do a preference for Black vendors and contractors and also female-owned businesses? That is something that we're working on, and it is something that we've started looking at now. We're currently, and I'm going to give props to Dr. Rao and Councilwoman Helen Willis, they've been taking the lead on a local preference ordinance, right, to ensure that we're giving businesses, that we're giving contracts to businesses that are located here in the city of South Fulton, and don't just like have an office, right, or have a P.O. box or an address, but you know that those people actually live in the city of South Fulton and that their headquarters are in the city of South Fulton. It is going to take some work, believe it or not, though we have all of this documented evidence of racism, right, in lending and all these things that I talked about in the slide presentation. We actually have to spend $100,000 or more to do a disparity study to factually prove that people are still suffering the effects of things like that. So those are things that I will be taking a lead on as mayor. I'm going to see if there are a few more questions here. Citizens are receiving stacks of tickets from those school zone cameras. They've been misleading information. The first thing I want you to know is that those cameras are only supposed to be operational during school hours. So when that light is flashing, and perhaps 1 hour before or 1 hour after, if school is not in session, if it's the weekend, if it is a snow day or a teacher work day, if it is a holiday, if it is nighttime, and you get a ticket, your ticket will have a time on it. You can contest that ticket, and it should be thrown out if it was not given during school hours. Again, I am always looking for solutions, right, that are not punitive. We should not be punishing our residents or trying to raise revenue off the back of our residents. And so when we went with the idea of speed cameras, I was saying even then, why don't we put down speed bumps? Obviously, speed bumps cost a little bit. They actually cost not much. They cost no more than installing speed cameras. All these things cost thousands of dollars to install, but you can't speed over a speed bump. You have to slow down, especially if you see some of those large speed tables that you see in neighborhoods like Ansley Park or Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, some of these communities. You can't race over that. You have to slow down. And if the goal is to get people to slow down, why would we not use a method like that that doesn't generate tickets? And again, you can speed through and not slow down, right? And so the cameras don't necessarily, their primary function is not to slow people down, but to generate revenue. I think that is the wrong way to go about it as a city. And as mayor, I will be working to put those speed cameras out of business by making sure that we have speed bumps in every neighborhood that asks for them. I have a long question here. Can you talk about how you're going to clean up all this trash in our streets? Also, why do we allow business owners like Walmart on Old National Highway to have a broken Walmart sign for years? Can you also address if South Fulton is a true city, why is our water still being paid in the city of Atlanta? College Park has their own utilities. Will South Fulton ever get their own? Okay, lots of different questions there. I'm going to start with the trash in our streets. We're currently paying a private company called Jacobs $12 million to do our public works, which includes our trash pickup. We don't own a street sweeper, so we're contracting with other people. I'm not sure that contracting is the most cost-effective way to provide those services. I think that we could have used that $300,000 better to buy a street sweeper for Old National than a SWAT tank that we bring out, once a month or so to raid a club. Um, so that is something that I'm going to be looking at, bringing those services in-house and setting up. It'll probably be a multi-year period where we will keep Jacobs to do some things. I can tell you that currently our state routes are not a part of the Jacobs contract. So our state routes are places like Old National Highway. Anything that says SR is actually a state route. It used to be handled when we were unincorporated, Fulton County. It was handled by the Georgia Department of Transportation. But when we became a city, it became our responsibility to handle those. The Georgia Department of Transportation is still cutting the grass for us like every 6 weeks or so, or every 2 months or so in the wintertime, but it's actually our responsibility. So if we want more regular grass cutting and trash pickup in those areas, we're either going to have to pay Jacobs more money, or we're just going to have to buy more street sweepers or hire more people to do that ourselves. At one point through our city court, we had what was called a green team. It was a great program that was created by LaDon Blackett Jones, who is our city solicitor and now is our court administrator. I'm working to bring that green team back. If you basically got a fine for littering or code enforcement violation, you could actually work off your fine by cleaning up. So we're not putting people in prison and doing chain gangs or anything like that. I'm just not for that. But if you have a ticket or if you have a fine and you can't afford to pay that ticket, and I'm not talking about a speed camera ticket where we're just writing tickets to generate revenue. But if there's really an honest violation and you're getting violations, then we can put people to work cleaning up our streets. I do think that we have to do a better job of holding business owners accountable. So I'm going to use this 50-yard line example again. The police chief has already asked us to revoke the 50-yard line's liquor license, right, and put them out of business. But the 50-yard line does not actually own their building, and they don't actually own the parking lot. Many of the guns and drugs that were found in that raid, it is now being reported, although I have still not seen the data from the police that I've been asking for since that raid happened. It is now being reported from people that were on scene that many of the guns and drugs that were found in the parking lot. That parking lot and that shopping center is owned by a company that is not in South Fulton. There are people who do not live here, right? They are not a city. And to my knowledge, we've done nothing to hold them accountable for what happens in that parking lot. We've been bullying our own Black-owned businesses, right? To be responsible for everything that happens not only in their doors but in their parking lot, and have done nothing to hold the $1 million landowners accountable. That will change when I am mayor. And the last part of the question is, if we are a true city, why don't we have our own utility companies? So this is a little bit more complicated and a little bit in the weeds. It's one of the same reasons that we don't have our own school system and that we don't have our own ambulance system. We contract with Grady for our ambulance services. We work with Fulton County Schools to educate our children, and we use Atlanta Watershed. It is both financially and legally either impossible or very challenging to set up those services. So we are not allowed to set up our own school system. We are not allowed to set up. There are places like Marietta and Decatur, before the laws changed, they set up their own school system, and those are two of the best school systems in the state because those schools are able to tailor to the needs of their population. As mayor, I'm going to work to make sure that Stacey Abrams is our next governor and that we have a democratically controlled state legislature. I have no problem making my politics known. I'm going to be fighting for those things as mayor, and then hopefully we can have we can create an independent school system for South Fulton students. We will be able to create our own ambulance service, which we are barred from doing by state law now. And also, it is again a legal challenge and a huge financial undertaking to create our own water system. That is definitely something long term, Kuji self-determination, that I would be interested in doing, but that's probably not something that's going to happen for a very long time. The cities that have their own power and utility companies, those cities are 100 years old or more, when there was much less regulation of those things, and it was easier for a city to start businesses like that up. So I think that is all the questions that we have for tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. Please tell a friend about this meet and greet. It will be online for replay at KhalidCares.com. You can go to youtube.com, Khalid Cares, to see the replay tomorrow. It'll be up tonight, but we'll have an edited version online for people to see tomorrow. There are other meet and greets that are happening. So I'm going to pull up. Field. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Actually, I will just go here. I'm going to share my screen. If you go to KhalidCares.com, when in doubt, KhalidCares.com, somewhere on that website, anything that I ever talk about always ends up there. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you can see us here talking at KhalidCares.com. And as you see, here's the replay of the online town hall. I am doing outdoor meet and greets around the city. So there are meet and greets coming to you if you're in Wolf Creek, if you're in the Fellwood area here on the south side of South Fulton. All around the city, I'm doing outdoor meet and greets. I always send a text alert out when one is happening, but if you want to know in advance when one is happening, you can RSVP here at this link. I'll just take you to the RSVP page now so you can see it. You just select one of the meet and greet locations that we have here. You can send in a question. You can buy a yard sign if you want to get a Khalid Cares, a Khalid for Mayor yard sign. Tell me what's most important in your community, and we will talk about it at those meet and greets. As always, you can text Fulton to 33777 to get my newsletter and find out about not only campaign events, but city council events and everything that is happening in the city of South Fulton. We have a mayor's debate happening tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It will be online on Zoom. So if you text the word Fulton to 33777, you will be able to, you text the word Fulton to 33777, you will get an alert when that goes online. You will also be signed up for our newsletter. We will have the only in-person debate for mayor happening in the city of South Fulton. It will be happening this Thursday on Old National at World Changers. If you want tickets or information to come watch it live, text Fulton to 33777. I'll be talking about that in our newsletter, letting you know how you can sign up to get those tickets or get there in person. I'll also, of course, have the rebroadcast here at KhalidCares.com and YouTube.com/Khalid Cares. Thank you all so much for coming. There is a gentleman there. I do want to close by saying that there is a gentleman named Derek Burnett who is running for the seat that I am in now for District 6 for Old National. I believe that a hallmark of leadership is developing new leaders. I don't think that anyone should sit in office, in any office, for decades on end and not develop new leaders. And so I'm very proud to be endorsing Derek Burnett for City Council. I'm going to just here we go. I'm going to share this picture of Mr. Burnett and I here at his qualifying. So if you see Derek out, we'll be out knocking doors the next couple of weeks together on Old National. Derek Burnett is the name that you want to remember. I want us to vote for as many new council people as possible. Half of our council is up for election, districts 2, 4, 6, and the mayor. If you want to see us head in a new direction, the power to do that is in your hands. You all have more power to change the direction of our city than anyone else. In all democracies, the power still lies with the voters. So get us new council people for districts 2, 4, and 6. Get us a new mayor and watch us head in just new and positive directions. My campaign is also, and I think the work that I've done as councilman, I'm proud to say, it has also inspired many young people, including this young artist, Big Dreams. So he was so inspired by the Black on Purpose theme that he created a song for the campaign called Black on Purpose. And so I want to thank you all for coming out. We are going to play that song now as we head out. Thank you all for coming. Early voting starts Tuesday. You can find locations for ballot drop boxes or early voting sites. If you're, I'll just rattle off a few of them now. Wolf Creek, Southwest Art Center, the Palmetto Library at Cascade Palmetto Road, Brooks Park Senior Center, South Fulton Library, Wolf Creek Library, if I didn't say that, but you can find all of those. Early voting starts Tuesday. Please get out and vote. We cannot change this city without your vote. Thank you so much. And here is Black on Purpose, the theme song by South Fulton native, or I'm not South Fulton native, but South Fulton resident, Big Dreams. Thank you all so much and have a great evening.
My name is Khalid Kamaru. You can just call me Councilman Khalid. I am a councilman, proudly represent Old National Highway, born and raised here in the city of South Fulton. For 20 years, South Fulton County has had the same leadership. We have to stop asking people to build things and start building things for ourselves. It's time to start coming forward.
The most of this, I got to stand on the hope for this. They gotta vote for this. I ain't playing in a broken shit. I'm in my lane and the road's lit. You keep the fame, I got home for shit. Remember when I had nothing to say? Remember how we said it under that bridge? They never felt that change. They never felt that pain. So I'm a man. They know my name before my time comes. This is the city we gon' rise up. I need my whole city lined up, registered and signed up. They all change to me. I need change, this change to change me. And if my life doesn't change, it's a shame on me. And if my people never change, it's a shame on we. So I go buy different names with the same ID. Change back on purpose, playing for Christmas. Disregard all the things that I see. I will make it all changes for the name. Back on purpose. Believe you better believe anything. Changes for the name. Back on purpose. The words that I'm perfect. Pristine, divine. Changes for the name. Back on purpose. Believe you better believe anything. Changes for the name. Back on purpose.
The city of South Fulton is the blackest city in America, so I want to take a minute to talk about black people. We don't control enough of our music, enough of our media, enough of the images that our children see. One of the reasons that I talk about the city of South Fulton being the blackest city in America is the holiday before President Biden and the national holidays, because we need to take our children that they have value. If they are not getting that in the music and media that they are seeing outside the city of South Fulton, we have to create the images that will encourage our children to be black on